Okay, now let us look at Saypro lesson 6. Uh, we're gonna talk about creating of dashboard. So we say create and share a dashboard with Excel. So first thing first, let us look at the definition of a dashboard. We say a dashboard is a visual representation of key metrics that allows you to quickly view and analyze your data in one place. Dashboard not only provide consolidated data views, but a self-service business intelligence opportunity where users are able to filter the data to display just what's important to them. So dating on the past, Excel reporting often required you to generate multiple reports for different people or different departments depending on their needs. So, but now we are able to create something like this, which we call it a dashboard, where all the metrics can be viewed in just one place. So, in this topic, we're gonna be looking at a lot of pivot tables, the pivot charts, and other pivot tools where they will be helping us to create a dynamic dashboard. So we say here for this example, we are going to create 4 pivot tables and charts from a single data source. So we basically need four pivot charts that we're going to be creating. First thing first, you need to make sure that you have this data sales. When you are there by lesson 6 on Saypro, you can quickly go down when it says create dashboard. When you click on the file sample data 1, it will basically download this file. You then just have to verify if the file doesn't have like blank spaces, because when you are to use pivot tables with blank spaces, then it will also show, but it will show as a blank. So now once you have your data, we'll need to then create what we call a pivot table. How do we then create a pivot table? In order for one to create a pivot table, you need to click, or you can select the whole data. Remember, when you are selecting a long data, we just click on the first cell, then you can click your control and shift, then you can press the arrow going down as well as the arrow that is going to the left. Your whole table will be selected. Now you can quickly go to insert, and then from insert you can just click on tables, and from tables you can choose what we call pivot table. Now you will see that your table is already named as TBL sales. If you are the one who just generated the table might have, you can rename the table as you want, so that next time when you want to use the table, you can just type there the name of the table and it will pick up the table. So here we always choose new worksheet because we want our pivot table to go to a new sheet rather than coming to the very same data here. So that is why we're gonna say okay. So once we are here, then that is when we get to have our pivot table and as well as our field list. So on our pivot field table fields, that is where we have the list of our headings from our table, and here that is when we're going to be building our pivot. That is why they say here to build a report, choose fields from the pivot table field list, which is this side here. So we're going to be choosing something and place it here. We know that filters is what we use. If you look here, that we have got these drop downs. So filters is what we use to filter our data, or it also help us to sort our data. And the columns, we know columns are represented by the alphabets, and the rows are represented by the numbers. And under values, that is when we get our figures. That is where our figures basically we keep them. So they are also saying here to select any cell within your data range and go to insert. We have already went to insert and we have clicked pivot table, and we wanted it to be on a new sheet. Remember, we wanted to create 4 pivot tables. So now if you check here, they say in this case we create a top level summary of sales by product category, and sort by the sales field in the descending order, meaning that we're going to be starting with the highest number to the smallest number. So now we're going to be taking the category into our rows, and we're going to be taking our sales into, we're going to be taking our sales into our values. But if you can check here, they've got the values as well, in terms of the sales, in terms of percentages. So we can just take the sales again and put it here again once more. So now putting it here again, this will then help us to change this, the second one. When you click on the drop down arrow here and you go to value field settings, then from value field settings you must choose show values as, and under no calculation you just have to click percentage of grand total and you say okay. So now we have these two, so you can just quickly come here and say this one, it sales. But remember, the name sales is already working. So if I try to click out, this message is what I'm gonna get. So I'm going to say this one, it sales in dollars, and then this one I will just say a percentage total. So I will call it percentage total. So now this is what I will have. But when I come back here, I was requested to sort it in a descending order, meaning that I must start with the highest one. So I will right click and then in one of the numbers, and I will go to sort, and I will say sort from the largest to the smallest. Now when I've sorted, this is what I basically get. So now, once I have my pivot table like this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate this pivot table. So the simplest way to duplicate the pivot table, you just have to click on it, press Ctrl, then now you drag and drop it along up until you have the four that they wanted. So now we're gonna go back to ours here. So what we're gonna do now, if you go to the second one, you will see that you still have your pivot table as you have done it on the previous one. You just duplicated it because there might be a change in the things that they are looking for. So the first one is complete, which is it's about the sales and the product and the category. So now they say once you have created your master pivot table, select it and then copy it and paste it as many times as it's necessary. So we wanted four of the pivot tables. That is why we have duplicated four times. Now they then say here, important pivot tables can't overlap one another, so make sure that your design will allow enough space between them to allow for them to expand and contract as values are filtered, added or removed. So they then say now we need to, at this point you might want to give your pivot table meaningful names and all of those things. So they say when you go to pivot table tools, and then we go to analyze, enter a new name in the pivot table. So basically if you want to uh, do that, so you basically have to just make sure that you have your what's it called. So we've got the pivot table analyze. If you go to pivot table, so you can name this pivot table as we said it's for, we said it's sales per category. So this is for sales per category. So now we have our pivot table as sales per category. Now we want to create a pivot chart. Now we want to create a pivot chart for our very first table. So what we're gonna do now, we'll go to what's so called, we will be here again, but now we will have to check on the tools. Under the tools we are going to go for the charts. So in this case, it will depend on the charts that you are looking for to use on your pivot. In this case, they say we must look for a clustered column chart. So now we need to come here and look for our column chart, and then we wanted a clustered. So this will be our clustered, and then from there, uh, after that, uh, we choose a combo chart with sales as clustered chart and the other one in line. So we want a combo. So under the combo, we want the other one to be line. So we want the other one to be line. So what we're gonna do here, if you check here, our total is in line and our sales in clustered column. So we just also accept that to say our what's so called is unclustered. Then from there we just say okay. So if you check now, we then have this graph as it is like this, and then you can just drag your chart. Very nice. So now I can click out of this so that I can bring my chart here. So once I have done that, I can just right click here and then say uh, on this one, I don't want the what's called, I will say remove field. So when I say remove field, I will come here and say hide all field buttons on chart. I will say hide field buttons on chart. Now you will see that my chart is clear and nice. So when I click on the chart and I go to again to my pivot here. So when I go to design, I can just say quick layout. On under quick layout, I can just choose to give now my chart a what's so called a name, which is for category. So I can rename it as category. Then when I click out, you will see that this one it's named as category. Let's just try to expand. So it's going to be just category. So now we have our chart being renamed as category. So this is how you will do it. And then as you scroll down here, they want us now to do what we call a slicers and as well as timeline. So how do we then do a slicers and a timeline? So while we are still on our pivot table, and we again go to our analyze, and then in this case now we're gonna look under filter, under the group filter, and we will start inserting our slicer. So in this case, our slicer, we wanted to do what? Suppose the slicer, it works visual filters. So basically in this case, we might look for the on the slicer, we might look to put the province, which is the state or province. So if we put the state or province, so now we have the slicer. So the slicer will be basically helping us to look at which country, which state or province source as which whatever the product or the category that was sold was. If now I choose only Nevada, so I will see that how the sales in Nevada, the most two things that they buy a lot from Nevada is the beverages and the dried fruits and nuts. So we are only making 96% on that because the amount is very high. So now when I want to bring everything again, I can just click on this one and then select going down, and then it will all be selected. Now everything is selected except the one that were hidden on top, or I can click control and click them one by one. That is how we then insert what we call our slicer. I'll just move my graph a little bit this side so that I can bring our slicer up. So I can bring our slicer up so that you can see our slicer. You see this one was also removed, so I will just click control. Now I have the slicer here, and I also have this one. So they also have what we call the timeline. So basically, what's our timeline now? Our timeline is something that has to do with deal with dates. So my if I go to my what's so called to my design again on top, I will under analyze again. When I go to filters again, I have what we call the timeline. So the timeline, it has to do with dates. So if your data doesn't have dates, then it will not work. The timeline will not work. You will see that the timeline, it can be filtered different. It can be filtered in terms of years, in terms of quarters, in terms of months, and in terms of days. So you can filter it in terms of quarters. Now it is filtered based in the number of quarters. So there are 4 quarters that are there, of which are between the years that were there. Is quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4 for all 2015. So this one, it gives a summary of what of a year in 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. So now we have all of this. So if you are using Microsoft 365, you can still have, uh, you can also have the access to on your on your pivot table analyze. You can also have you can do what we call the filter connections. So you can do the filter connections. Why we are doing the filter connection? So that whenever you see now already our our this one and this one, the filters, they are now connected, so that whenever I am moving one, the other one can also do can work. If now I filter based on this, it must also change on this one as well. So from there, that is how we work out our pivot table. So now you follow the same process again to make the next one. So the next one that we're gonna be working on, uh, it's gonna be what we're gonna be looking now. When we go to the second one, we're gonna be looking at, we change now our categories. We can bring our categories and look at the customer names. We can look at the customer names. Now when we look at the customer names, again we get the very same thing, and we follow the very same process of going and insert our slicers. Now we look at the employee. When we look at the employee, and then we say okay. So we have the employee. Now from the employee, you can again go back there under pivot table analyze. Now you can put your chart again. So the chart again, we are looking for the combo, because that is what we want to use. So now this is what we get. So but now what else do we need to do on our chart? We wanted our charts to be in the same pattern. So in this case, I'm going to make sure that I again sort this one from the largest to the smallest. Once it is sorted, then this is what I will get. So I will again keep it nicely where I want to keep it. So from there, let me just open my screen so that it can be big. So now I have my table on top here. I have my slicer, and I have also this one. So from there, I can again put another timeline. From when I click on the table, I will have the pivot table analyzed there. And then I can just go to insert slicer. Already I have the slicer, so I will insert the timeline. So again is the order date. Then I can say okay, and then now I have all of that. So while all these things are happening, what I'm going to do, I'm going to come here and I'm going to delete this table. Let me see, to delete this table. So now that pivot table was deleted. So I'm going uh to remove this one. I'm going to come here and I will remove the grid lines. I will make sure that my grid lines are removed. So the first thing that I will do, I will come to my first pivot table. I will come here. I will cut my pivot table, bring it here on dashboard, and then I will keep it somewhere from the sixth, and then I will paste my dashboard, and then I will come again on here. I will also copy this one. I will also take this pivot. I will cut this one as well, and then I will bring it here and I will paste it here. So make sure they are nicely and visible. So what you can do, we can just allow a single line for breathing. So we have our table, and then now what I will do again, I will come here and make sure that I take my my dates, my timeline. I will take my timeline and I will bring it here on top. Remember, you can still you can make sure that you minimize it to look very very nice, so that it becomes on the same line with your thing, with your pivot. So you can always make sure that you do that. And I will come also on this one and I will cut this one. I will bring it here again and I will make sure that it is pasted here. Once it is pasted, I can now shrink and minimize. I can now shrink and minimize and make sure that I drag it to look very very nice. So it is now here. Then from there, from at the bottom here, I can make sure that when I'm here, I can just go back there again, bring my slicer. I can cut my slicer here and bring my slicer here. So in this case now here, I will be bringing my slicer. So I have to shrink my screen so that everything can be more visible to everyone. So I will go to the second one again, take my slicer, go to my dashboard, bring it there, and then now I have my slicer here. So from there, I'll have to come again here, take my chart and bring it here, and I'll have to work out my chart very nice so that it doesn't look big and out of scale. I must come and take this one. If you check this one again, we just have to come here and clean our chart so that it doesn't have all of this. We just have to come here in any of this. So let's just cut it and we paste it here. So now once pasted, make sure that you shrink it and it comes here. So from there, now you have already started building your what we call your dashboard. You will see that now all the charts that you have created, you have tried to keep them in one place. So you can keep as many charts as you can here to make sure that you build your dashboard. So what you can do, you can always come then add some few. You can always go to home, and then you can insert as many sheets there. And then now you can just make sure that whatever the place that will be visible, you match that and center, and then you type you can then type this and make sure that you work it out with the nice font that you think you like, so preferable as for now. And then make sure that you have a sort of a dim color that you prefer for your dashboard. And then this is what I like. And then you can also make the weights to be in a different color. So from there, you can also make sure that the background of your dashboard, it's made to a nice color. So you can make sure that it's made into a nice color. So you will be the one to decide what colors you want your dashboard to be. So make sure you choose nice colors uh, on the background. So this will be now your dashboard. And once you are done with your dashboard, then you can then be able to share it to your team. I'll just choose share, and then from there it can ask you how do you want to share it. Do you want to share it into your OneDrive? Do you want it as an Excel workbook copy? Then when you do that, it will then be able to open your Outlook, and then you can just share it to someone. There will be a lot of people that can show on your email. It can show the recent people or people that you communicate with them a lot. And then now you can choose that one person. You can CC whoever you want to CC, and you can put here a dashboard report. You can put here that this is our dashboard report. So you can say dashboard report, and the attachment is there. And then from there, you can just click send, and then that dashboard report will be gone. Thank you for joining us for this lesson. See you next time.